Well, g'day team and welcome back. We're up to the NRL round 24 now. There's only 4 rounds remaining. We're coming off a great round 23 where there are a couple of upsets and a couple of closer games than what most would have predicted. Certainly didn't see some of those games panning out the way they did. But look, I'm going to keep trying to make my predictions and talk about what I think is going to happen. Let's keep giving that a go. But let's start with the first game of the round, top of the table clash, 1v2. Thursday night game with the Panthers versus Storm in Penrith. The Panthers slight favourites in this one. Panthers look set to welcome back James Fisher-Harris and Dylan Edwards, I'm hearing, but they will be without Liam Martin and Scott Sorensen, so have a new look back row, pretty inexperienced back row. Ali Katoa is back for the Storm on the edge, and that means that the Storm will have a slightly more experience in the back row there against the Panthers. It's a critical game in the contest for the minor premiership. The Panthers are 1 win behind the Storm at the moment, and they are favourites despite the fact that both Liam Martin and Scott Sorensen are unavailable. The Panthers really struggled against the Eels last week. It took a pretty amazing comeback, one of the better comebacks I've seen to beat the Eels at the end. I think they had to score 3 tries in 6 minutes. They scored 3 tries in 3 minutes or something like that, and just an incredible comeback. The poor Eels couldn't quite pull that one off and are still in that hunt for the wooden spoon. Although I'll talk about that in a minute. Storm haven't looked too flash since Munster's come back, I think, let's be honest. But they will be targeting this one to put in a big effort, and they'll want to step up after a couple of pretty lackluster performances. Look, I'm leaning towards the Panthers at home in this one. It's going to be close no matter what, but I think the Panthers have the slight edge here. But I'm going Panthers 1, so I'm going Panthers 1-12. The Seagulls versus Warriors on Friday night. Shaun Johnson's returning for the Seagulls, and of course he's only got a few games left. There's a bye at the end for the last round for the Warriors, so there's 3 possible games he could play. Adam Pompey is back. Marcelo Montoya's back from injury. That helps the backline dramatically. Timara Martin, Ali Lautoa and Ed Kossi are all out. A couple of injuries one injury for Timara Martin, and Ali Lautoa is injured, I believe. Josh Alloway returns at prop for the Seagulls, and Lachlan Croker, of course, played last week after returning out from injury for a while. The last time these two teams met was a draw at Mount Smart Stadium in New Zealand. The Seagulls probably should have won that game. The Seagulls have won 4 of the last 5, and last week had a big second half against the Raiders. They have a lot of firepower, let's say, certainly with Turbo back the last few weeks, and Garrick's back as well. So yeah, they're looking Olakuatu back. So yeah, after the bye, they've basically got most of their big guns back. The Warriors' season's all but over. I think they're a mathematical chance to win, but it's not looking likely. The Warriors have lost 2 in a row, but certainly just missing out against the Dolphins last week in Golden Point. It was quite an impressive game, I must admit, coming from behind and managing to draw at 80 minutes and go into Golden Point. But yeah, too many personnel changes, I think, for the Warriors, which is sort of unsettling. Although I would argue that because it's Shaun Johnson's last few games, there's a bit of pressure off here. They might play with a bit of freedom, and you never know. But look, I think there's way too much class at the Seagulls at the moment, and they're at home, so I'm going Seagulls 13 plus. I think that they can score some points, and this is probably one of the games to do it. Roosters versus Eels, the other Friday night game. Roosters strong favourites here. Roosters, no changes after the bye. Basically, they are full strength. The only omission, really, I think by the looks of things, would be Jared Warrior-Hargraves. Kaumatua-Langi returns from injury on the bench for the Eels. Otherwise, they're relatively unchanged as well. Blaze Talangi has just signed for the Panthers. The Eels have played pretty well over the last few weeks. They had a good first half against the Storm, but then trailing off and losing comfortably. They beat the Warriors in New Zealand in a pretty impressive performance, if you ask me, and then, as I said just before, narrowly missing out against the Panthers last week. But this seems pretty clear for a pretty clear-cut win for the Roosters, who are pretty fresh off their bye, and I think they should comfortably keep their top 4 spot. So I'm going Roosters 13 plus. Bulldogs versus Dolphins. Jamin Salmon finally returns from his broken jaw on the bench. And Mark Nichols is out due to concussion. The Bulldogs have won 5 out of their last 6, coming off a pretty good win against the Dragons last week. Basically full strength. They are missing Max King, but otherwise they look like that would be their main team. They're hunting down that 4 spot, and look, the Dolphins had a great start against the Warriors last week, but they only scraped home in Golden Point, as I said before. 3 losses before that, and Tabuai Fido really not firing on all cylinders at the moment. I'd like to see, we all like to watch him play, but I'd like to see him fire in this one. However, I don't think it will be enough for the Dolphins. So at this stage, I'm picking the Bulldogs 1-12. And it's unlikely it's not likely there'll be a 13 plus either way. The Dolphins don't normally lose by much. Cowboys versus Raiders. Cowboys at home in Townsville. Chad Townsend's been axed. Jake Clifford's coming in, and Jeremiah Nanai is out. Jordan Rapana is out for the Raiders, so that means Adam Cook will get a start in the halves. Ethan Strange will go to centre, and Sebastian Chris will go to the wing. Jordan Rapana's pretty big loss there. Cowboys unpredictably getting smoked at home against the Broncos. I don't think many people saw that coming, certainly after the last few performances from the Broncos, who are on the bye this week. But they had the Cowboys had won 5 out of the last 6 before that. The Raiders 4 losses before they had 2 wins, before they had 2 more losses, so pretty mixed. But yeah, look, the Cowboys are hanging on to their top 8 spot. The Raiders are still only 1 win outside the top 8, and but look, Cowboys at home, a few personnel changes at the Raiders. And I am expecting the Cowboys to bounce back here, but I think it will be pretty close. So I'll go Cowboys 1-12, which is in line with the odds. West Tigers versus Rabbitohs. Rabbitohs favourites here, of course. Luke Laulilii returns on the wing for the Tigers after concussion. I believe Alex Seyfarth gets a start. Aiden Caesar didn't finish the game last week, but he's been named to start. Tallis Duncan comes in for Michael Cheekham at the Rabbitohs. Just an injury to Michael Cheekham, so Tallis Duncan comes in. Kaloa Matangi and Cam Murray have swapped. Kaloa Matangi has gone to the edge, Cameron Murray to lock, which is disappointing for those that own Kaloa Matangi in their fantasy teams, which I do. So for me, he's gone this week. But the Rabbitohs should have too much class with the likes of Cook, Murray, Walker, Whiten, and I'm expecting Jai Gray to have a big one in this one. I think there'll be the defence at the Tigers is going to be too loose, and he's going to run rings around them. Both teams are out of the competition, so there's little to play for, to be fair. The Tigers are 2 wins off the bottom spot. They have a bit more to play for probably, but I think the Rabbitohs will win 13 plus after what has been a pretty challenging season for them. Dragons versus Titans on the first Sunday game. I'm not going to say his last name right, unfortunately, but Max Fuinge replaces Moses Suli. It looks like a performance-related decision. Jack Bird is on the bench. The first time we've seen Jack Bird for a while since he's been injured. He has played in New South Wales Cup, I believe, for a little while. AJ Brimson moves back to the bench. I think Brian Kelly's back from concussion. Mo Fotuaika is suspended at prop, so he's gone. Both teams coming off disappointing losses last week. More so the Titans, losing 44-0 against the Sharks. Titans at home. Staggering, didn't see that coming, but especially because the Sharks are without their first a normal starting half, let's put it that way. The Dragons at home, and they are in better form based on 2 weeks ago with their win against the Storm. The Titans are a mathematical chance to make the top 8, but yeah, the Dragons are more likely. They are currently level with the Dolphins being in the top 8, Dragons not. So I tip this week that the Dolphins will lose, the Dragons will win, and they will move above the Dolphins into the top 8. I'm picking the Dragons to win this one 1-12. I think it will be close. Titans will look to bounce back. from their disappointing effort last week. The Sharks versus Knights. Sharks strong favourites in this one. It's a home game, although it's in Sydney, not Cronulla, but no changes to the Sharks, although Braden Trindle, Ronaldo Mulitalo and Braden Hamlin-Uele are all on the reserves. Dylan Lucas returns in the centres. Jackson Hastings is in the reserves. However, I'm not predicting that he will come into the starting lineup. They have been pretty keen to just continue with the way things are at the moment, but we will see. That may change just before kickoff. The Sharks are coming off a massive win against the Titans in the Gold Coast, as I just said, after losing to the Titans at the start of July. So that was a bit of they wanted to sort of return the favour. The Knights have been mixed lately, but will have gained some confidence after last week's win. However, that was just against the Tigers, so don't read too much into that. But a win and a few points always gives you a bit of confidence. I don't think the Knights themselves are too sure about what they're doing in the halves. But yeah, look, the Sharks, they've also got makeshift halves in that department as well, with Blake Brayley at halfback. This one smells upset to me. I don't know why. I think there's going to be a couple of upsets this weekend, and I can't pick any of them at the moment, but this one just feels like it. I think if Trindle doesn't play, the Knights win. So at the time of making this video, Braden Trindle hasn't been named in the 17. Therefore, at this stage, I will go Knights 1-12 in an upset. But if Trindle does play, then I will bounce back to the Sharks with my tip. So, I don't know. There's going to be some unpredictable results, and I don't know how the games will play out a little bit. But that's my take on what's to come. If you've watched this and enjoyed it, thank you. And certainly enjoy the games this weekend. Thanks.